The great cities of Europe project an image of enduring wealth. The squares of Paris, Vienna, and Rome are immaculate, suggesting a continent at its economic height. But beneath this surface, a mathematical collapse has already begun. This crisis is invisible. It does not look like a sudden banking panic or a stock market crash. Instead, it accumulates slowly in maternity wards and empty school districts, hollowing out the foundation of the economy 1 year at a time. In 2023, EU births dropped to 3.7 million. Fertility hit 1.38, well below the 2.1 needed for stability. This trajectory is locked in. The population will reach its absolute peak of 453 million in 2026, before beginning a permanent decline. These shifts are the result of decades of missing births. Europe has crossed a mathematical threshold, entering a period of contraction that short-term economic policies cannot reverse. Demographers define this stage as negative momentum. It is the point where the population structure is so heavily weighted toward the elderly that deaths exceed births, regardless of whether fertility rates improve. Because each generation is now smaller than the one that preceded it, the number of women of childbearing age is shrinking. The deficit compounds, creating a spiral where the population loses the capacity to replace itself. The median age in Europe has climbed to 44.7 years. In Italy, the figure is 48.7. These are no longer just statistics. They are the markers of a continent of grandparents. The economic calculation focuses on the dependency ratio, the number of active workers required to support each retired citizen. Today, the old age dependency ratio is 33.9%, roughly 3 workers for every retiree. By 2060, that ratio will reach 53%. At that level, every 2 workers must generate enough wealth to sustain a third person in retirement. This aging population represents a structural drain on total economic output. It forces governments to choose between unsustainable debt and the erosion of the social contract. Comparing the working-age populations of major economic powers, the U.S. workforce grows, while the European Union's blue line steadily declines. Between 2023 and 2070, Europe's potential workers will fall from 264 to 223 million, losing 41 million people in a single lifetime. A loss of 41 million workers translates directly into empty factories, strained supply chains, and critical services that simply cannot be staffed. It is an evaporation of the human capital needed to maintain industrial production. Despite the mathematical certainty of this workforce shortage, it remains largely ignored by political leaders focused on the short-term requirements of 4-year election cycles. Without a workforce to execute the transition to a green economy or sustain its manufacturing base, Europe's influence as a global regulator and industrial power will diminish. By 2050, the cumulative impact of these trends will result in a 5% drop in the total population. That represents 22 million fewer people than today. Mathematics provides only 3 levers to slow this decline: increasing fertility, raising labor participation, or managing higher migration. But each faces immense resistance. Fertility policies take decades, labor participation has a physical ceiling, and migration remains a point of intense political friction. The workers missing from the 2050 economy are not a theoretical problem. They are the babies who were not born in the 1990s and the children who are not being born today. Demographic decline follows a rigid biological calendar. It is a set of fixed deadlines that cannot be negotiated or delayed by policy. Firm. Maintaining the continent's economic viability requires an immediate end to the silence. The mathematical window to secure our future labor markets is closing.